Hi, today we're going to do some resin troubleshooting, and the reason why we're doing this is because I'm seeing a lot of posts online of people having problems with using like the Amazing Casting Resin. Hi, I'm Myra with Boutique Paint. Thank you for joining me. This is a product that most of us use. It's a 10-minute casting resin. It comes with a part A and a part B. It comes with 3 of these little mixing cups. It comes with some stir sticks. And I pick up little cups from the dollar store to do my mixing in. I want to talk about the fact that they've changed their box. This is what you're all used to if you've been using it. This is the new box. Exact same thing, and it's the 10-minute Cures White. First of all, put something down underneath what you're doing. If you're doing it on your dining room table, do not put just one layer of paper down. Put several. You can see one of my bottles is leaking. It's getting messy. You don't want it going through. You don't want to, your kitchen counters, whatever you're doing. You could get a cookie sheet from a secondhand store and do it on that. That would probably be ideal as far as keeping the mess contained. So when you're using the Amazing Casting Resin, you do not need any releasing agent to help you remove the cast from the mold or your resin from the mold. It will just pop right out if everything is mixed right and everything's gone okay. This was from a billion years ago. And don't let this scare you. I have not had this happen since I ruined this one mold, and I don't want to scare you because I know you're like, oh my goodness, I don't want to ruin my molds, so I'm not going to use it. No, it's a great product to use in the molds. But something happened, and I think it was my own user error. I think that I did the combinations because it's a part A, part B. I think I did it wrong, plain and simple. And it literally ruined the mold. And this is an old mold. You probably know that just by the shape of it and the color of it and whatnot. But please do not let this scare you. Like I said, I don't know what happened. But if you follow the instructions, you should be okay. A couple other things. Resin can freeze. And what happens when it freezes, it doesn't set up. And so then you just have this kind of globby mess in there. And nobody wants a globby mess. And so you can, if that happens, you happen to get one that freezes, or you forgot to grab the bag out of the car when you brought the resin home and it's freezing. If it doesn't set up, just clean it out as best you can with a paper towel, and then you can take it to the sink. You don't want it, any of that residue going down your sink, obviously, but clean it out as best as possible. Then take a scrub brush and just kind of scrub in there with a little bit of Dawn dishwashing liquid, and that'll help you get it cleaned up. And that's true if you just want to clean up your molds. If you have clay on there, or like I use the mica powders all the time, and you want to get them clean, looking good, then just scrub them with a scrub brush. They clean right up. Another thing that happens with this, and I will show you here, and this only happens, it only seems to happen with the side B, which is the one that's kind of yellow. And I'm hoping that this will show when I pour it, if it'll pour. It might not come out. Oh, there it is. I can see them. Let's see if I can get this to, okay. It's probably hard to tell, but there's crystals in there. And so if you've opened it up and then you closed it back up and you've let it sit for a while, like a couple months, it will get some chunky crystals. And most of the time it's towards the bottom, and you can see right there what's happening. If you pour your part B into your cup and you have that, don't worry. It's not going to affect the casting. I have not yet had it affect what I'm doing. just so you know. So don't freak out if it's all crystally and chunky and weird. Just move forward and it should be just fine. Heat and cold will affect your mold. If it's hot out, it will, oh my goodness, I did it once outside and it was like 90 degrees and I mixed it up and I could barely get it to pour because it was setting up so fast and it was a mess. So I don't suggest you do it in the sun outside, even though it's beautiful outside. Have an umbrella or something over you. If it's super cold, it will take a while for it to set up. If it's hot, it sets up too fast. So just take those two things into consideration. I mean, obviously, if it's cool and it's taking a little bit longer to set up, that's okay. I'd like to talk also about overpouring when you're doing a project. If you are doing a project and it's going to be like an ornament and you've overpoured, meaning that it kind of is too much, you've kind of made a dome. For an ornament, it doesn't matter. Actually, it probably would look pretty good then from the back. This is a little over poured, so it's just kind of domed. If you're going to use this, and this one isn't so bad, it would probably lay down nicely if you glued it on something. But if you over pour and you want it, you know, flat onto whatever you're working on, it's gonna be lifted a little bit off of whatever you're gluing it on. So depending on your project, you're going to want to decide if you're going to, you know, if over poured's going to work or under poured. This is a little bit under poured and there's just kind of a rim all the way around it, which is, it just means you have to fill in a little bit of extra glue in there to get it to stick flat. That one is perfect pour. It's just flat all the way around. And then this is a goober. This is when it dries too fast. It turns into the goo and then you kind of shove it in there. The impression on the other side is fine, but it's really funky on the back. That doesn't mean you can't use it on something, especially if you're like layering, that would work. This one is a little bit over poured. Also, if you don't want bubbles on the back, because you want it, you know, if you're doing like an ornament or something like that, you can pick up, I'm trying to find it here, from a store, one of these little guys, and it's just a little torch and it's refillable from the bottom here, and you just do it over the back, and I'll show you that here in a minute, and it helps take out the bubbles. Here you can see there's a little bit of bubbling. So depending on what you're doing, if it needs to be perfect on the back, you may want to pick up one of these little torches. I have all kinds of videos out there for just doing all kinds of things with mica powders, the DIY maker powders, if you're wanting to add color, whatnot. But we're going to do some basic. Say you also would like to have this ornament stop here. You just want that round. You can also use your hot glue gun and just make a little reservoir to stop the resin to come through. And you kind of have to build this up. And depending on how tall you want it, so if you want it straight across, which is what most of the time you want, you may need to let that cool just a minute. So then you can build up the resin a little bit more, or build up the hot glue a little bit more. And just kind of keep adding layers. If it's not going where you want it, use your sticks. So let's go ahead and mix up some resin. And like I said, it's 1 part A and 1 part B. This is the A here, and they give you the little measuring cups. If you're not used to using resin, I suggest you do half, like at 15 here of A and B. Stir it, get used to it, get used to pouring it so that you're not using a lot of product. I'm going to go ahead and make up a full batch. So I'm just going to go a little bit below the top there. I'm just eyeballing it. And you can see B is a different color. It's kind of that gold. If it is warm outside, just stir this quickly and pour quickly. If it's cool, you got more work time. But as you're pouring, it should start looking kind of milky. And when it's wintertime and it's a little cooler, I keep stirring until I can feel heat on the side of the cup. And it's just, you know, it's just a little warm up. But that's how the resin reacts to start working to make it hard. So I know it's a little tedious. Okay, I can feel it warming up. So I'm going to go ahead and pour. And when it's cooler outside and you stir it more, it will then activate faster and set up faster. I poured way too much in there and it's domed, but it also hasn't gotten to the end. And you can either use one of your sticks or you could use, oh, it did get all the way there. It's just the angle. So I got way too much in there. So that will be domed, which for an ornament I'm fine with. I'm just going to scoop out some of this. But if you have some, I know some of the molds, especially this year, have little nooks and crannies, just get a toothpick and kind of move the product into the corners. So I'll pour this one here with our dam in place. And if it goes over, you can always take scissors and clip, you know, if you do get carried away, or the resin gets carried away. It can't be you, right? It can't be me. If you have a little bit of leftovers, pour it anywhere. And then pull those pieces and just set them aside. Have a whole box full of stuff. You would be surprised on how many times I just pull out my box and use whatever I have in there. So when it comes to the torch now, this is when you'd use it. And you can kind of see them popping the bubbles there. You don't get super close. You just kind of go over the top. And that helps that. And you can see how fast it's already, because I put a little bit of heat on that, so it elevated it up a little bit and setting up quickly. If when you're mixing, it's not changing colors, it's not getting that milky. Sometimes it doesn't always get the milky, but most of the time it does. But if you keep stirring and nothing's happening, take a look at your bottles and make sure that you have used the same amount of A and B. You can look at the side of them, and if one of them is a bit lower, not just a little bit lower, but quite a bit lower, then chances are you mixed 2 of A or 2 of B, and it is not going to set up. While we're waiting for these to set up, your little cup that you use to pour the part A, part B, this will set up a little bit in there, and you can just take your popsicle stick and go in there and clean it out, and then take a paper towel and wipe it down. That way you can keep reusing the same cup over and over again. Is for that. How do you know when you're going to pop these? Because this one here looks like it's ready, but if you go to do that and it pops right out like that, then it's done, obviously. But if you, like that corner, it's still a little translucent. And if I bend it, it just stretches. So that one is not ready to pop out yet. And this is still a little soft in some areas, but it's okay to go ahead and pop it out. Let's see if this one's ready. Now, when you pull them and you have the hot glue on there as a dam, you just pull the hot glue off, and then If there's a little bit of extra, you can take scissors and just trim that. You can file it. There's a whole bunch of different things that you can do to finish that edge off. You can even use. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this, even though it's still a little soft. And the nice thing about having it a little soft just before, right after you pull it out, is that you can mold it and glue it at that time, because it's still very pliable. And you can also clean up the edges if you didn't over pour. A lot of times I'll just do that. I'll just use my nails. Once it gets hard, you can use like a fingernail file, an emery board to clean up the edges, whatever. This is a hard one. This is, I think I did last year. It isn't going to go anywhere as far as gluing. So if you want it to bend, do it while shortly after you've pulled it out of the mold. Just one more thing. As far as coloring the resin you can get liquids that are designed especially for coloring resins. I don't, and I haven't used them, so I can't really say if I like them or not. This is milk paint, the powder of milk paint that I mixed in there, and it gave this really kind of cool effect here. It gives kind of a concrete look if you want it. And then of course you can always use the mica powders and the Maker's powders from DIY. So those are just a few ideas and a little bit of troubleshooting. And I hope this helps if you're having problems with resin. Next week, we've got a fun project. I'm actually really looking forward to it. And then we'll probably kind of scoot into gift making after that, getting ready to go into Christmas, even though it's not yet Thanksgiving. Anyway, if you have any questions about any of the products I used here, you can go to our website at www.boutiquepaint.com. Thanks. Bye.